Good day, you're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos and here are today's top stories. The Bangko Sentral expects inflation to have accelerated further in October from the 6.9% print recorded in September. President Bongbong Marcos thumbs down calls to place the entire country under a year-long state of calamity in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Paeng. The death toll from Typhoon Paeng rises to more than 100. Damage to agriculture is pegged at around 1.3 billion pesos. And the country's information and communications technology sector is seen to become a $21 billion market by 2026. Let's begin our broadcast with the Bangko Sentral forecasting inflation to have breached 7% in October. The BSP projects inflation to have settled within the range of 7.1 to 7.9% last month on the back of rising food prices, higher transport fares, and the peso's depreciation versus the dollar. If realized, the October print would exceed the central bank's 2 to 4% target for the 7th straight month. This would also be faster than the 4% inflation in the same month last year and a 6.9% CPI in September. The upper end of the Bangko Sentral's projection, or 7.9%, would be the quickest in over 14 years or since November 2008. However, the BSP says inflation is expected to gradually decelerate in the succeeding months. Inflation data for October will be released on Friday, November 4th. The Bangko Sentral has another $30 billion in foreign exchange buffer that it can use to defend the peso. That's according to the latest foreign exchange insight of ANZ Research. ANZ head of Asia Research Kun Go said that year to date, the Philippines has already spent $12 billion to defend the local currency from speculative attacks. Despite the drop in reserves, Go notes that the country still has the best reserve adequacy metric in the region based on the preferred measure of the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. Now, oil companies are providing some relief to motorists as they implement minimal reductions in fuel prices. Effective today, November 1, diesel prices will be slashed by 60 centavos per liter. Gasoline and kerosene, on the other hand, will both see a decrease of 25 centavos per liter. This marks the second consecutive week of oil price rollbacks. Sustained downward movement in the international market last week resulted in a decrease in pump prices this week. It's the start of a new month and we kick things off this week with inflation numbers set to be released Friday, with projections pointing to a breach of the 7% level. Joining us for his insights, we have Calixto Chikiamco, political economist and columnist at Businessworld. Good day, Sir Toti. Thank you for joining us again. Let's start with the BSP projection, ceiling at 7.9%. How worrying is that?
Well, it's quite worrying because it's a combination of factors that's led to that. Surging food prices, the oil prices, and at the same time, I think some secondary effects from the peso depreciation.
Mm-hmm. But how likely is it for us to actually reach that level? Do you have your own projections?
Well, I don't have, except that I would say that the BSP target, projection is quite likely. My concern is that we haven't seen the peak yet because, we're heading into the Christmas season where there's going to be bigger demand. At the same time, you have winter is coming, and therefore oil and gas prices globally may see a spike again. And of course, this is the lean season for the fish catch, and therefore this may also contribute to further inflation. At the same time, as you know, we have seen the destruction caused by the typhoons, and this will of course affect agricultural production because of the damage that these typhoons have caused.
Now, you mentioned you haven't seen the peak yet. When then do you see price pressures remaining elevated?
I think towards the Christmas season, we're very near. I think we're already in November, so November, December, we could see higher prices.
And then perhaps a deceleration after that first quarter
That's
next
right.
year?
Yes.
Okay, and then at the same time, you now have paeng. I mean, should we be expecting inflation to heat up further? Historically as well, how much do typhoons of this magnitude push up price pressures?
Well, again, it all depends on what the government will do because the other thing that we can cope with the food shortages really to liberalize importation. But the EO 171, which lowered the tariffs for pork, corn, rice, and coal, will be expiring soon by the end of the year. So far, the government hasn't made a move to extend that EO.
What do you think would have a state of national emergency done to at least control price pressures, considering that should it be put in place, I mean, there would be a price freeze in basic goods and necessities?
I don't think that's sustainable. I mean, putting a price cap, it may only drive production down further. There'll be no incentive to meet the increased demand with higher prices. So I don't think, if ever, the state of national emergency would have given the government some flexibility in terms of the budget.
Okay, and now you have the central bank changing tone. They are expected to match the Fed to maintain at least a 100-point differential. Some analysts now see a slowdown in the Fed's hiking cycle after another 75 beep hike this month. Do you see us following suit? When do you see the BSP hitting that pause button?
Well, I think what Governor Medalla said, that they will match the Fed point by point, right? So that's probably what we can expect. If the Fed pauses or doesn't doesn't impose a high interest rate, then we will probably match that, though. So we'll only see a deceleration when the Fed also stops increasing interest rates.
Okay, how much more do you see the BSP hiking, and at the same time, can the economy absorb much of the pain here?
Well, what will happen is that we will see a slowdown in the economy. I mean, of course, we're still quite positive with so this 5 to 6%, but it will probably be on the lower range with its interest rate hikes, as this will hit the very interest rate sensitive sectors like cars, houses, etc.
And at the same time, of course, you have the local currency ending October quite strong at the 57 level. No small thanks to the BSP unloading some of its forex buffer. Up to what level is this intervention healthy?
I guess it is doused the speculation on the peso for now. But again, that will whether that's sustainable. I mean, the BSP can continue to use their foreign exchange to be able to intervene. That's another question.
But is there a reason to actually draw the line at 60 peso to $1? Is it a level that's really worth defending?
But again, what is the cost? Of defending that? No, I mean, if the cost is really slowing down the economy entirely, you keep increasing interest rates high just to keep the exchange rate. I mean, the peso stronger. Then that will be very costly.
And then
So
go ahead.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. But the BSP is not supposed to be doing exchange rate targeting. They're supposed to do inflation targeting. Of course, their concern is that there will be secondary effects from the peso depreciation. But again, they have to be cognizant of the cost of intervention, especially with interest rate hikes.
And then lastly, before we let you go, you have the president now signing the executive order on voluntary masking, even indoors. Do you expect a bit of a boost here in terms of economic activity?
I don't know. I think the people already have become used to you know the present situation. I don't know whether removing those masks will really result in a really higher economic activity or higher consumer spending.
All right. Again, thank you very much for your insights this morning, Calixto Chikiamco, political economist and columnist over at Businessworld. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now let's pause for a quick break, but coming right up after that. Agricultural damage and losses caused by Typhoon Paeng climbs to more than 1 billion pesos. More of that and other stories when Business World Live returns. Stay with us. And you're still watching Business World Live here in One News. I'm Jes Delos Santos. President Bongbong Marcos has rejected calls for the declaration of a national state of calamity in the aftermath of Typhoon Paeng. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza gives us a front seat to the story.
President Bongbong Marcos believes that placing the whole country under the state of calamity is not necessary. The NDRRMC earlier recommended to have the country under a national state of calamity for 1 year, but the president believes it will be much better to focus on affected areas instead.
In consultation with the DNR, sabi hindi naman kasi extensive, very, how do we say, not naman isolated, highly localized. Thank you. Highly localized ang mga damage. We're talking about the East Coast, Quezon, dito sa Cavite, and then Maguindanao. Tinamaan pa rin yung Maguindanao.
President Marcos conducted an aerial inspection of Calabarzon on Monday. A situation briefing was also held with local officials to tackle long-term solutions on flooding. The chief executive also led the distribution of relief goods to evacuees in Noveleta, Cavite. The town had been severely flooded with at least 3 persons reported dead. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza, We Are One News.
The death toll caused by severe tropical storm Paeng has climbed to over 100. According to the NDRRMC, the total number of reported deaths has reached 110 as of 6 a.m. November 1st, 79 of which are confirmed while 31 are still being verified. 101 people have been injured while 33 individuals remain missing. Total affected families is at over 740,000. This translates to a total of 2.4 million individuals affected by Paeng. Damage to infrastructure is now pegged at 760 million pesos. The number of damaged infrastructure has reached 55. Now, the government reports over 1 billion pesos in agricultural damage and losses following the onslaught of severe tropical storm Paeng. According to the Agriculture Department's assessment, Paeng's wrath resulted in damage and losses of around 1.3 billion pesos in the agriculture sector. The storm affected nearly 54,000 farmers and fisher folk in 8 regions from the Cordillera all the way to the Zamboanga Peninsula and Soc-Sargen. Latest data from the DA also shows the volume of production loss at nearly 67,000 metric tons. Rice makes up 92% of the affected commodities, while the rest are divided among corn, high-value crops, livestock, and fisheries. The government also reports that Paeng damaged agricultural facilities, particularly in the Zamboanga Peninsula. The Economist Intelligence Unit, or EUI, projects a slowdown in the retail sector next year. EIU Industry Manager Barsali Bhattacharya tells Businessworld that the retail sector's growth could slow to 2.7% in 2023. This is on the back of the expected impact of elevated inflation and rising interest rates on consumer spending. This year, the retail sector is seen to grow 5.9%, mainly driven by the reopening of the economy and the easing of COVID-19 restrictions. The Philippine information and communications technology market is seen to hit $21 billion by 2026. That's according to a data analytics and consulting firm. According to a report by Global Data, the Philippine ICT market is expected to grow at an annual growth rate of 8% in the next 3 years to $20.6 billion. This as local businesses are expected to continue spending on ICT next year in anticipation of rising demand for digital solutions. Local industry players say investment and telco and ICT are among the top priorities of MSMEs as they seek to make their businesses more resilient and adaptable in the face of unexpected challenges. Global Data says the cumulative revenue generation opportunities for ICT between this year and 2026 are estimated at nearly $90 billion. And those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News, all sides, all the time. Don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local bourse and Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us. And you're still watching Businessworld live here in One News. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Again, trading still on a break as the country observes All Saints Day. But as we start November, let's first take a quick glance at how October went as far as the equity space is concerned. In fact, looking at this past month, more gains than losses throughout the month of October. Continuous days of bargain hunting helped push stocks higher as we closed the month. After starting October at the 5,700 levels, we ended last week at 61.53. That's after peaking at 6,230. As you can see right here, shares gained close to 6.5% in that 1 month period. Year to date, however, the main index is still down by 13%. Quite a sad picture if really you have the index down by 13.6% year to date, with losers outnumbering winners. Semirara, however, bucking that trend here, up by 63.7% year to date. However, what's worrying here is that you have quite a number of losers here converge for one. Biggest loser so far year to date, down by 61.4%. AC Energy likewise in the red at 43.2%. Now looking at the local currency, the peso showing some muscle in the latter part of the month. That's after touching the 59 level quite a number of times over the past month. The peso ends October at 57.970 to the greenback. But elsewhere in the globe, trading continues. Let's have a quick check of how things are faring for Asia. Quite a sight for sore eyes here. I mean, amid cautious trading over, of course, due to higher bond yields and focusing on central bank moves when it comes to hiking rates. But as you can see right here, gains here, at least in Japanese indices, with the topics gaining 0.3%. The Nikkei likewise, some more muted gains here. Chinese stocks also starting the day positively, as well as our Korean shares here up by 1 1/10%. Aussie stocks also gaining 0.75%. Movements in the region, of course, that's despite some losses on Wall Street. That's after Biden urged Congress to mull on slapping tax penalties on oil companies with windfall profits without reinvesting in production. That's as prices remain high ahead of midterm elections. But as you can see here, futures as well looking bright, however, for Dow Jones and the S&P 500. Again, the Fed set to meet this week with bets still on for another 75 BP point hike, but more and more strategists begging a possible slowdown in the cycle, with some looking at a possible pause by first quarter next year. Let's see how the local markets will react, especially on the back of domestic inflation possibly breaching 7% as projected by economists and even by the central bank. This, of course, as trading resumes tomorrow. And that's it for today, November 1, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.